If you had asked me a year ago, I would have said my life was picture perfect. A successful marketing executive at a top tech firm in Seattle. A loving husband, Michael, who worked as a senior software engineer at Amazon. 2 beautiful children who excelled at their private school. And a stunning modern home in the hills overlooking Lake Washington. We were that couple everyone envied at every social gathering. The ones with the perfectly curated Instagram feed. The family that hosted legendary Sunday brunches where the mimosas never stopped flowing. I had mastered the art of a highlight reel both online and off. My Instagram stories showcased our family ski trips to Aspen. The candid shots of Michael teaching Emma to code. Jack's winning goal at his soccer championship. But that's the thing about carefully crafted images. They only show what you want people to see. The reality behind those filtered photos was starting to crack. I remember the exact moment I first felt it. That subtle shift in the foundation of everything I thought I knew. It was during one of our Sunday brunches, the spring air crisp and fresh. Michael had outdone himself with the spread, fresh croissants, eggs Benedict, fruit platters. Our friends were scattered across our open-concept living room. Their laughter mixing with the clinking of champagne glasses. I was in my element, playing the perfect hostess. But something felt off. Empty. Like I was watching myself perform in a play. The role of the successful wife and mother. The envy of the Seattle tech scene. I caught my reflection in the window. Designer dress, perfectly styled hair, practiced smile. And for a split second, I didn't recognize myself. That's when James' text lit up my phone. Missing you. Dinner tomorrow? I quickly turned the phone face down. My heart racing as I glanced around to see if anyone had noticed. But everyone was absorbed in their own conversations. Including Michael, deep in discussion about some new coding framework. I excused myself to the kitchen, hands shaking as I poured more champagne. How had I gotten here? James was the CEO of the startup where I'd been consulting. Young, ambitious, with that hungry look in his eyes. He reminded me of myself 10 years ago. Before the mortgage and school runs and perfectly planned dinner parties. It started innocently enough. Late-night strategy sessions. Coffee meetings that ran long. His hand brushing mine as we reviewed presentations. I told myself it was nothing. Just professional chemistry. But then came the texts. The stolen glances. The electric tension whenever we were alone. And suddenly I was living 2 lives. By day, I was Sarah Thompson, perfect wife and mother. Instagram influencer with 50,000 followers. The woman who seemed to effortlessly balance it all. By night, I was someone else entirely. Someone who felt alive again. Who wasn't defined by her roles and responsibility. I created elaborate covers for our meetings. Networking events. Client dinners. Late-night emergency calls. Michael never questioned it. He trusted me completely. That trust was like a knife in my gut. But I couldn't stop. The thrill of secrecy was addictive. The way James looked at me made me feel 25 again. Desired. Dangerous. Free. I started taking more care with my appearance. Upgraded my wardrobe from casual tech exec to something more polished. Spent hours at the gym sculpting my body. My followers ate it up. Mom goals. How do you do it all? If they only knew. The guilt was always there, simmering beneath the surface. Every time I kissed Michael goodbye. Every time I missed one of Jack's soccer games. Every time Emma asked why I was working so late again. But I pushed it down. Buried it under designer purchases and workout endorphins. I became an expert at compartmentalizing. My days were perfectly scheduled. Morning smoothie bowls photographed for Instagram. School drop-offs documented in my stories. Meetings at the office where I maintained my professional facade. And then, James. Hidden moments stolen between commitments. Luxury hotel rooms booked under fake names. Passionate encounters that left me breathless. Before rushing home to make dinner for my family. The double life was exhausting. But I was too far gone to stop. I convinced myself I deserved this. That I had earned the right to something just for me. After years of being everything to everyone else. The perfect wife. The devoted mother. The successful career woman. When had I last done something purely for myself? James made me feel seen. Not as a wife or mother or executive. But as Sarah. Just Sarah. The woman I used to be before all the roles and responsibilities. I started taking more risks. Getting sloppy with my excuses. Leaving my phone unlocked. Part of me wanted to get caught. To shatter the perfect image I'd created. To stop living this exhausting lie. But I never expected it to happen the way it did. It was another Sunday brunch. The house filled with our usual crowd. Tech executives and their equally successful spouses. All of us playing our carefully choreographed parts. I was in the middle of topping off champagne glasses. When Michael stood up. Something about his posture made my blood run cold. He had his phone in his hand. And a look in his eyes I'd never seen before. "Sarah," he said, his voice carrying across the room. The conversations around us died. "Would you like to explain these messages?" My glass slipped from my hand. Champagne and crystal shattered across our imported marble floors. On our smart TV screen, my private messages with James appeared. Every secret conversation. Every intimate photo. Every lie exposed in high definition. The room went silent. I could feel everyone's eyes on me. Their phones probably already typing out messages to spread. The gossip. The perfect couple's perfect life, shattered. My carefully constructed world crumbled in an instant. I opened my mouth but no words came out. What could I possibly say? The evidence was there for everyone to see. My friend Rachel gasped. Someone whispered, "Oh my God." I looked at Michael, expecting anger. But all I saw was pain. Deep, crushing pain that I had caused. And in that moment, the full weight of what I'd done hit me. I hadn't just betrayed my husband. I'd destroyed our family. Traumatized our children. Thrown away 15 years of trust and love. For what? A few months of excitement? The illusion of freedom? The room started spinning. I heard footsteps as people quickly gathered their things. Murmured excuses as they fled the scene. Not wanting to witness the implosion of the Thompson family. But their phones were already buzzing with notifications. News travels fast in Seattle's tech circles. By tomorrow, everyone would know. The perfect wife's perfect lie exposed. Michael didn't say another word. He just walked out. Leaving me alone in our beautiful house. Surrounded by the remnants of our Sunday brunch. Half-empty mimosa glasses. Abandoned plates of food. The shattered champagne flute at my feet. A perfect metaphor for what I'd done to our life. I sank to the floor, careful to avoid the broken glass. My designer dress pulling around me. The same dress I'd worn to meet James last week. My phone started buzzing. Messages from concerned friends. Probably some from James too. But I couldn't look. Couldn't move. Couldn't breathe. What had I done? The sound of footsteps on our stairs made me look up. Emma stood there, her 12-year-old face confused and scared. "Mom," she whispered. "What's happening? Where's Dad going?" I opened my mouth to respond. But what could I say? How do you tell your child you've blown up their world? That Mommy's perfect image was all a lie? Jack appeared behind his sister. His 9-year-old eyes wide with concern. My children. The true victims of my selfishness. I forced myself to stand. To be the mother they needed right now. Even though I'd failed them so completely. "Come here," I managed to say. They approached cautiously. As if sensing that everything had changed. I held them close, breathing in their familiar scents. Wondering if this would be the last time they'd let me hold them like this. Once they knew the truth. Once they understood what I'd done. My phone kept buzzing. The outside world demanding answers. But for now, I just held my children. And prayed for the strength to face what was coming. The aftermath of my perfect lie. The consequences of my choices. The destruction of everything I'd spent years building. All for a fantasy that now seemed hollow and meaningless. The sun was setting outside our floor-to-ceiling windows. Casting long shadows across our perfect home. The home I might soon know. Se. Along with everything else that mattered. I had no idea how to fix this. Or if it could even be fixed. All I knew was that the perfect life I'd crafted so carefully had just shattered into a million pieces. And I had no one to blame but myself. The next few weeks passed in a blur of lawyers and whispered conversations. Michael moved to our lake house, taking the kids on weekends. Our divorce proceedings became the hottest gossip in Seattle's tech circles. My Instagram followers doubled, hungry for any glimpse of the scandal. I disabled comments, but couldn't bring myself to delete the account. Those perfect photos were all I had left of my former life. James tried to reach out multiple times. His messages growing increasingly desperate. But I blocked his number. He wasn't worth what I'd lost. The startup withdrew my consulting contract. Too much negative publicity. My reputation in the industry was in tatters. Funny how quickly people turn on you when you're no longer perfect. The worst part was facing the kids. Emma refused to speak to me for weeks. Her preteen anger a wall I couldn't breach. Jack still hugged me, but his eyes held questions I couldn't answer. "Why did you hurt Daddy? Don't you love us anymore?" Each question was a dagger to my heart. Of course I loved them. They were everything to me. But I'd been so caught up in my own desires. I'd forgotten to show them that love. My therapist said I was running from myself. From the pressure of perfection I'd created. She was probably right. But understanding why didn't fix anything. Didn't erase the pain I'd caused. The trust I'd broken. The family I'd destroyed. I threw myself into damage control. Hired the best divorce lawyer in Seattle. Started individual therapy. Family counseling with the kids. But some things couldn't be fixed with money. Or carefully worded apologies. Or Instagram perfect appearances. The reality of my new life was harsh. Empty nights in our too-big house. Scrolling through photos of happier times. wondering how I'd let it all slip away. My friends slowly divided into camps. Some stood by me, understanding the complexities of marriage. Others sided with Michael, disgusted by my betrayal. Most just disappeared, not wanting to choose sides. Rachel was one of the few who stayed. She'd bring wine and take out. Let me cry on her shoulder. Never judging, just listening. "You're not the first person to make a mistake," she'd say. "And you won't be the last." But it felt like more than a mistake. It felt like I'd set fire to my entire world. And now I was standing in the ashes, trying to figure out what to salvage. The media attention was brutal. Local tech blogs ran stories about the perfect tech couple's implosion. My affair became a cautionary tale. The dangers of social media perfection. The price of living a lie. I started losing weight. Couldn't sleep. Couldn't focus. My perf. CT image crumbling along with my mental health. The kids' school called one day. Emma had gotten into a fight. Someone had made a comment about her cheating mom. I picked her up, my heart breaking at her tear-stained face. We sat in the car for a long time, neither of us speaking. Finally, she turned to me. "Why weren't we enough, Mom?" I had no answer that could heal her pain. No explanation that could make sense to a 12-year-old. Or to myself, for that matter. That night, I stared at my reflection. Really looked at myself for the first time in months. The designer clothes felt like a costume now. The perfect makeup a mask I'd hidden behind. Who was I without all of that? Without the roles I'd played so perfectly? Without the family I'd taken for granted? I started making changes. Small ones at first. Deleted my Instagram account. Stopped wearing makeup to school drop-offs. Let my highlighted hair return to its natural color. Started cooking real meals instead of photogenic ones. The kids noticed the difference. Jack asked to help with dinner one night. We made a mess of the kitchen. But his laughter was worth more than any perfect photo. Emma started talking to me again. Short conversations at first. Growing longer as weeks passed. She'd tell me about school, her friends. The things I'd missed while chasing perfection. Michael and I established a co-parenting routine. Strictly business. No room for the warmth we once shared. But at least we were civil. For the kids' sake. I found a new job at a smaller company. Less prestigious. Less pressure. More authentic. My new coworkers didn't know my story. Didn't expect perfection. Just valued my work and experience. It was refreshing. Liberating. The therapy sessions started helping. I began to understand my choices. The pressure I'd put on myself. The validation I'd sought from others. The way I'd confused attention for love. Success for happiness. Image for reality. Slowly, painfully, I started rebuilding. Not the perfect life I'd had before. But something real. Something honest. The kids spent every other weekend with me. No more staged activities for social media. Just genuine time together. Board games. Movie nights. Simple moments I'd once thought too ordinary to cherish. Emma started opening up more. About her feelings. Her fears. Her anger at what I'd done. I listened without defending myself. Acknowledged her pain. Promised to do better. To be better. Jack's soccer games became sacred. I never missed one now. cheering from the sidelines, not caring how I looked in my casual clothes. My old friends slowly started reaching out. Some with judgment still in their eyes. Others with understanding. Most somewhere in between. I learned to accept their reactions. Without trying to manage their perceptions. Without performing for their approval. Rachel remained my strongest support. You're growing, Dee tell me. Even if it doesn't feel like it. Maybe she was right. The pain was still there. The regret. The shame. But something else was growing too. A kind of strength I'd never had before. Not the strength to maintain perfection. But the strength to be imperfect. To be real. To be human. One night, helping Emma with homework. She looked at me differently. You seem happier, Mom. Even though everything's worse. I thought about her words. Was I happier? Everything I'd lost. The marriage. The reputation. The perfect image. And yet, there was a freedom in the falling. In hitting bottom. In having nothing left to lose. Nothing left to prove. I hugged her close. Breathed in the scent of her shampoo. Not everything's worse, baby. Some things are just different. And different can be okay. She nodded, understanding more than I'd given her credit for. Children often do. That night, I wrote in my journal. Not crafting the perfect story. Just letting the truth flow. About loss and love. Mistakes and consequences. The price of perfection. And the value of authenticity. I was learning to live with my choices. To face each day without the mask. To find beauty in the ordinary moments. To be present instead of perfect. It wasn't the life I'd planned. Not the one I'd showcased online. But it was real. And maybe that was enough. 6 months after the Sunday brunch that changed everything. I found myself sitting in a coffee shop downtown. Staring at my reflection in the window. The woman looking back was different now. No more perfectly styled hair. No designer clothes chosen for Instagram appeal. Just me. Raw and real. A notification popped up on my phone. Michael had posted a photo with the kids. They were at his new apartment. Making cookies. Flour on their faces. Pure joy in their eyes. My heart ached, but not like before. The pain was duller now. More like a scar than an open wound. I scrolled through the comments. Friends and colleagues showing support. For him. For the kids. For their new life without me. I put the phone down. Focused on my coffee. Real coffee, not an artisanal creation for social media. That's when I saw him. James. Walking past the coffee shop window. He hadn't noticed me. Too absorbed in his phone. Looking exactly the same. While I had changed so much. For a moment, I felt nothing. No anger. No attraction. No regret. He was just a stranger now. A chapter in my story I'd rather forget. My therapist would call this progress. I called it survival. Learning to live with the consequences of my choices. My phone buzzed again. A text from Emma. Can we have pizza and movie night tomorrow? Such a simple request. But it meant everything. Of course, baby. You pick the movie. No need to document it for social media. No need to make it perfect. Just us. Real moments. Real connections. I'd been volunteering at a women's shelter, helping others rebuild their lives, finding purpose in pain. The director had asked me to share my story about losing everything, about finding myself in the aftermath. At first, I hesitated. Shame still lingered. But maybe my mistakes could help others. Show them they weren't alone. That perfection was an illusion. And redemption was possible. I started writing about my experience. Not for likes or followers. But for healing. For truth. The words poured out. Raw and honest. No filters. No pretense. Just the story of a woman who had everything, lost it all, and found herself in the process. My relationship with the kids was evolving. Emma started calling me for advice. About friends. About school. About life. Real conversations. Not staged moments for social media. Jack still hugged me tight. His love unconditional. Pure in a way only children can be. Michael and I developed a new normal. Co-parenting with respect. If not warmth. We'd never be friends. But we could be parents. Put our children first. That had to be enough. Work became more fulfilling. Without the pressure to appear perfect. I could focus on actual results. Real achievements. My new colleagues appreciated authenticity. Valued substance over style. One day, Rachel visited. Looked around my simplified home. You seem different, she said. Lighter somehow. She was right. The weight of perfection had lifted. Leaving space for growth. For change. For reality. I started dating again. Slowly. Cautiously. No more secrets. No more lies. Just honest connections. Or attempts at them. Some worked. Most didn't. But that was okay. I wasn't looking for perfect anymore. Just real. The women's shelter asked me to lead a support group. For others rebuilding their lives. Finding strength in vulnerability. Healing through honesty. Each week, we shared our stories. Our struggles. Our small victories. Our real lives. Emma came to one session. Sat in the back. Listening. Understanding. Later, she hugged me. I'm proud of you, Mom. 3 words. Worth more than 1,000,000 likes. The seasons changed. Summer turned to fall. Life moved forward. Not in a straight line. But in circles and spirals. Each turn bringing new lessons. New understanding. I learned to cook for joy. Not for photos. To dress for comfort. Not for show. To love without conditions. Including myself. The house felt different now. Less like a showroom. More like a home. Filled with actual memories. Not staged ones. The kids left marks on the walls. I left them there. Signs of life. Of love. Of reality. 1 year after the brunch. I stood in front of the women's shelter. Sharing my story again. But this time was different. I wasn't the perfect wife who fell. Or the social media star who crashed. I was just Sarah. A woman who lost her way. Found it again. different but stronger. The audience listened. Some CR. IED. Others nodded. All understood. The universal truth. That perfection is the enemy of joy. That real love can't be filtered. That true happiness isn't photogenic. After the talk, Emma waited outside. "Ready for pizza night?" she asked, taking my hand. Like she used to. Before everything changed. I squeezed her hand. Looked at my daughter. Really looked at her. Saw the wisdom in her young eyes. The forgiveness. The love. "Ready," I said. And I was. Ready for real life. With all its imperfections. Its messy beauty. Its honest love. We walked to the car together. No phones in sight. No photos to post. Just us. Mother and daughter. Walking toward home. Toward truth. Toward tomorrow. Not perfect. But real. And finally. That was enough. End.